Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I am a cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV therapy and coaching services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoachddanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our 9th episode of season 6, a very special guest and podcaster, Elsie. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to probably introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Elsie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dan, and it's such an honor to be here. My name, as he mentioned, is Elsie. It's actually 2 letters. It stands for Laura Christine, so it's Elsie. And my main thing right now is I have a podcast called the Boundless Heart. The reason I started this podcast is because I realized through self-experience and hearing from many other women that do we let ourselves abandon ourselves for relationships? And I've been through a divorce recently, would love to talk about my journey through that and why I left. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you very much. And I know that your story, even though it could be a bit depressing at times, can inspire our listeners who are sometimes stuck in very toxic relationship, but they just don't know what to do, where to go, especially if it's physically abusive. So we're going to talk about that. I'm not sure if he was to that extreme or if he was mostly emotional abusive. So again, there's different kind of abuse that people are experiencing. So thank you for being here today and sharing your story, because I know that it will help a lot of our listeners. So let's start with what would you define your marriage as being toxic?
Ooh, that's a good question. It was emotional. I would say emotionally manipulative is what I would say. And I would participate in that because I would also manipulate myself.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, somehow.
Do you want me to expand on that?
Yeah, well, because usually the one who's dealing with a toxic relationship is usually the victim and the other one is the culprit. So how would you do self-infliction of like what you just mentioned? What would be the incentive to that?
Well, the incentive for me was I thought that I could fix him. Like hindsight, right? I thought, well, he's going to see eventually how great life can be if he just stays with me, because I do have a very positive disposition, and optimism is, I operate on optimism. And even in the situation where he was constantly negative and constantly saying the world is out to get him, and he would actually constantly also put me down, I wouldn't let that really bring me down as much as see it as a challenge to like, okay, well, I'm going to make him see. So in this situation, even though he was saying things like, what do you contribute? And the last thing he said actually was, you couldn't survive without me. So things like this, which are really not kind at all. And I would never let any of my friends hear that and stay with somebody, but I was. And I thought, well, I have to heal myself more so that doesn't bother me as much. And then maybe he'll see how great life can be. That's where I was at.
Wow. But was there any indicative signs when you were first dating about the type of abuse, or not necessarily? I know that a lot of people are actors before getting married, before signing that marriage certificate. And once this is signed and they feel that they have the right to do whatever they want, behave the way they want without any repercussion. But obviously, there's divorce as repercussion to their action. So prior to getting married, did you see any signs in him that could actually dictate his future behavior?
I really did. However, I had never been in a position where I was surrounded with people like him. So I didn't recognize them as the red flags that they were. And I think a lot of people might be in that situation. So one thing that I really noticed, again, this is hindsight, So not to beat yourself up if you're in a position like this, but one thing that I really noticed was if we were in a disagreement, he would speak very, he would speak very much down to me and basically tell me I'm stupid, not in those words though.
Mhm.
And another thing that really stands out right now is maybe we were going to go on a trip or go hang out with friends. Before we went, he would say, okay, let's just put on a happy face and act, like you're all happy, when nothing in me would indicate that I wasn't happy. So trying to control how I guess I was perceived by the people that he loved and knew. It was weird
But
to
I think
me.
he was projecting his own insecurities into you because he was unhappy.
Very much.
Not even though you just said originally or in the beginning that you have more a positive mindset. He has more of a negative mindset. So he was just projecting what he was feeling at that moment, which was unhappiness. And by doing this, he was making you second guess, which is what we call instrumental emotion, which is gaslighting. You are not good enough. You are this, and bringing you down, being condescending towards you. And I think this is what a lot of narcissistic people practice the most, just to be able to
Yeah.
extract value from yourself. So like this, your self-worth is down, your self-esteem and everything down that follows. But when it comes to how long did you, primarily, how long did you take before you start deciding this is not right for me? I got to get out because this is extremely toxic.
Yeah, that is an interesting question too, because I'll back up and say I didn't actually want to get married in the first place. This is actually my second marriage, right? That I just got divorced from. So it's my second divorce too. And when he asked, I felt so uncomfortable saying no because I wanted to be with him, but I didn't want to get married. I knew he wanted to get married. So I was a people pleaser.
Yes.
So it was fine for a while, right? Like you said in the beginning, it's different. And then the more you're with them, and once you sign that marriage certificate. So we were together for about 3 years before we were married. And then we were married for 3 years. I would say 2 years max, maybe a year and a half, where I started thinking, I don't know if this is actually what I'm perceiving it to be or what I'm dreaming it to be.
Okay. Did you, after the year and a half of officially being married, because then that means that you would be
Mhm.
with him for 4.5 years. Now, there's
Yeah.
so much that you could do. You could act upon a positive behavior and not show your true colors. So, was he good during those first 3 years prior to getting married? Or was he just kind of like, because if he's being himself, chances are you would never sign this marriage certificate because you would have known that he's toxic originally. So why, after 4 years and a half, chances are you would notice something that is off?
Well, I noticed it within me more so than anything, more so than in him. I started to realize that the more I would give, the more he would take for granted that whatever it was that I had done was going to continue being done by me. I can give a quick example. One night he was going to get home from work late and it was the weekend. It was a Saturday night and he was going to be late. So I did one of his like chores that he does on Saturday nights for him. And then it was like, oh, good, you're doing that every day or every week now.
Uh,
And you know what I mean? Like I gave from my heart, like, this is something that I want to do for you because I would feel amazing if someone did this for me. But then if I didn't keep doing it, it was like I was wronging him then.
wow, talking about like some kind of like more of an abuse, like a mental abuse that he was using. And did you feel that after this, it
Yeah.
was going downhill from there, where he was expecting a lot more from you? And if you were not giving enough of yourself, he felt that you didn't love him and you were the one who caused the demise of the relationship.
Oh, trust me, yes, everything was my fault in his eyes. Yeah, absolutely. I did. I felt like well, again, I thought, okay, I have to heal more. I have to heal more. I'm doing things wrong. I definitely thought that everything was my fault, even though I would see the signs and the patterns and hear the words. And in my mind, that wasn't making sense to me at all. But in my emotions or something, I felt like, I must just not be doing something right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like I'm sure that a lot of people that are listening to this podcast and that are not, I mean, they're experiencing similar situation as you, but yet unfortunately they do not
Mhm.
have that luxury to be able to leave the relationship because the culprit is the breadwinner. They're the one who have all the financial decision. So, what would you recommend the people who are going through this toxic relationship of what are the strategies to take to be able to better prepare yourself to have an exit that will allow you to start living your life?
I wish I had like all the answers for everyone. I really do. And I think that the biggest thing to know is that if you wait until you're ready, you're never going to leave.
Mhm.
So that's like the number one thing, is to realize that when you leave, that's when your answers start to come for you, not necessarily before. However, check in with your local organizations, with your women's shelters. Google, Google it. How do I get out? You can find groups on Facebook that you can go into, and they will have answers. They've been through it before. You are not alone. That is another thing. You are absolutely not alone. There are so many people experiencing what you're experiencing, and there are so many people who've been through this, and they are reaching out their hands to lift you up and out. You can do it, but you have to believe that you're going to make it. And you are. Humans are very resilient. Women are very resilient, very strong. You are going to be able to do it, but it takes some digging to find the information that you need. Do you, Dr. Dan, have any suggestions? Because I feel like you work with people more in this arena than I do.
Right.
So I'd love to hear it.
The thing is, it's an interesting question, Elsie, because there's so many different situations that are different than what you went through. Obviously, there's physical abuse, and the man may threaten that if the woman leave, he will track her down and do something really bad. There's the financial bullying, where they control basically everything, and the person who has not worked, who doesn't have a job, are left with nothing. So, and then of
Mhm.
course, if they block all the accounts, the credit card, etc., how is the person going to be able to survive? So, everything is, I mean, when you are more confident about what you want to do from this point forward, you need to prepare yourself. And preparation is key
Yeah.
to know and to feel more confident to be able to take this exit phase. So, the thing is that you need to be able to maybe do like a side gig or prepare yourself financially. As you mentioned, Google some shelters because you're going to have a roof over your head. Find out what support your state or your county does offer for domestic abuse. So the Googling part is number one. More information you get, and more chances you're going to be able to build confidence to take the next step. Also, when it comes to, if it's domestic, I would say if it's physically abusive, leave ASAP. If you have kids, take them with you,
Yeah.
and then you'll be able to figure out
Yeah.
what's next. Because if physical abuse is included into the relationship, especially towards kids, the county is much more able to open their doors and welcome you in if you were just single, as just a single woman, or I would say soon to be single, because they would put a lot of importance to kids. This physical abuse towards kids, the county will not accept it. So chances are you'll be more taken care of. Food banks for food. So all this is already a first sign or first way to be able to clear the path ahead of you. And that will allow you to be able to kind of feel more ready to be able to exit the relationship. Now, for financial, Like I said, it's a bit tricky because you have no credit card. So I would suggest everyone who is entering a relationship or a marriage, do not stop working. Keep going to your job, even if the husband is doing well. Forget, just think that you are alone and you are winning your own money and you put it into your account. And then, of course, if you get married and you have to take care of the household responsibilities, create a joint account, put your share and let them put their share. And then use that account to be able to pay the expenses, but don't give away your salary to that person. Do not. So I would nonstop repeat it to all my patients, to everyone that comes with to use my services, to let them know that this is key. Do not stop working. Now, if you have kids, new babies, get a daycare, do whatever it is, but continue working. Because if you exit the workforce and you go back 5 years later when the kid is able to go and start doing kindergarten, whatever it is, chances are to be rehired are less likely to happen, especially now with the technology and with all the new graduates that's coming to the market. They will most probably hire the younger crowd than the older crowd. So chances are you have to kind of always keep your resume active, that you, if they see a big gap in between, this is when the employer may get scared. So these are strategies to not give up your career for anything or anyone. That's one advice that I give to everyone. But again, like I said, people who come to me, they've been married for 10, 15 years. They already have interrupted their career for the benefit of the kids, etc. So it's hard to go back, but this is kind of like being proactive. But again, the Googling part, as you mentioned, Elsie, is a good way to start. So that's my suggestion to everyone. But if we go back to once you left the relationship, was he going back to you and kind of like trying to hunt you down and trying to say, why did you leave? Why this? Why that? And how did you manage it?
Yeah, in fact, it's been just over a year now since I left to take a break last February, and we're still separated and divorced now. And I still receive some texts or messages. I've actually blocked him on everything. So that was one step that took me a long time to do. I still had hopes. I was very much in a grieving period for a few months, and I still had hopes that we could be friends. Realizing later that as much as I tried, there was literally no way. He was not hearing anything I was asking. In my situation as well, he is a drinker, and he would say, I'll stop drinking. I told him I need at least 6 months, which honestly I don't think is long enough, but I said I need at least 6 months of no drinking, and then we can have a conversation about what we might choose to do. And I think he tried and didn't make it a month. And he's still saying, I'll quit drinking. And I'm like, no. I just received a text or an email. That's the only thing he has access to anymore, because unfortunately, some of my mail will still end up in his mailbox, and some of that I need. Luckily, he's telling me about it. That's a fortunate thing. But he just sent me an email about a podcast he thinks I would like, and it's basically demeaning me because it has to do with my work. So he continues to try to make me engage in any way that he can. At first, it was really desperate. I was happy. You were happy. He was telling me what I was. You were happy. I don't understand what happened. I'll fix it. I'm so sorry. And then there was some anger and telling me that I ruined his life, and the only thing that will fix it is if I come back. He got really desperate. Another text was, or email, I can't remember by this point, but it was like, I bought some video game, and if anyone knows me at all, I've never had video games in my life, so they're not important to me, but I do like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Okay, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I love Marvel. And he said he bought a virtual reality game where you can fly around like Iron Man, and if I come back, he'll let me play it. And there's just so much wrong with that statement. I can't even tell you like one, I don't care to, you don't have the power to let me do anything, right? So there was that. And the thing is, though, it was so hard for me because I felt his suffering. I saw his suffering. I have a lot of compassion. A lot of women do, a lot of people do. But I just didn't understand that some people can't hear. They can't talk like an adult.
Mhm.
And even if it comes from wounding, and even if it comes from trauma, there's nothing I can do to make it better. And that was a really hard pill for me to swallow.
But the thing is, because of your nature, would you consider yourself as a highly sensitive person?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
This is one of your personality attributes. So you absorb all the negativity, even though you have a positive mindset. You basically keep it in,
Yeah.
and even though you show empathy, which is what every human being should show, but I think it's over what the limit requires.
Yes.
So that is
Yes.
the favor. Unfortunately, when it comes to because narcissistic people will feed in that aspect, in that attribute that you have, Elsie, and more you show empathy, and more they will retract their emotion towards you, so you could go and run after them. And this is what they want.
Yeah.
They want you to pay attention to them. They want you to be always putting all your energy in making them happy at your expense.
Yeah. And the thing of it is that because I feel that, I think that if I can do something to make them happier, then I'll feel happier, because then I'll be absorbing that happiness instead. But they never get happy.
Never, never. And they are actually angry that you are happy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It was, well, it was both, right? There were times when he loved that I was happy. I remember one of the last days I was even there, he came in, he said, "You're glowing."
Okay.
But then I would be full of energy and light and joy like I am right now. And I'd be cooking or doing something, and I was just so happy. And he would say something like, "What are you on? Did you take drugs?" And he was serious. I'm like, "No, I'm just happy. This is how I am." And I think that what he can't handle, and this is maybe projecting or assuming, and I don't want to do that, but it's possible that he may not be able to handle the fact that I can be happy without him. And I cannot tell you how much happier I am now
I could
than a
just
year ago.
you smile from one year to the other, Elsie. That tells me that that is quite a feat that you made that decision, because I do see a lot of my patients that when they leave a relationship, they feel down, even though they should be able to breathe, to say, look, you escaped jail. I mean, be
Yeah.
happy. But they find that how I'm going to be able to move on. And then the thing is that the culprit will always call and make them, hey, I could offer you this. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And once you go back, you get back to the same. It's like they leave on parole, but they come back to the same damaging situation. So it's sad to see.
Yeah.
Even though you try to be able to give them the tools to be able to become self-sufficient, but they fail to become that. So if you would just give one big advice to all of the listeners of what you've done after you've separated or after you divorced, to be able to keep yourself busy, to be able to do things and keep your mind off of the divorce.
Definitely. I I got a therapist who was really good with first validating where I was, and also with boundaries. She specializes in helping people like me. She's been in abusive situations as well. So that was incredibly helpful. She knows what to do, and getting somebody who understands where you've been and can help you see your lessons that you need to learn, because that's really where it is. If I didn't learn how to set boundaries, and I didn't learn how to tell him to stop texting me, and I didn't learn how to know that it's okay to block somebody, I would be back. I really think I would. Allowing yourself to work on yourself and learn how to own your own power is absolutely crucial. So reach out to a coach or a therapist, somebody who can help you see your power until you do for yourself as well.
Beautiful. And I think it's all about healing, all about understanding and being self-aware to what have happened, and to also
Yes.
learn from the situation, because unfortunately, it's not just the culprit that is the cause of the demise. The victim was also contributing somewhat somewhere to what happened. So of course, I'm not sure what is a 50-50 or 30-70 or whatever it is, but that doesn't matter. As long as you start learning about who you are, what you can become after this the separation of the divorce, and then what you need to do to be able to become a better version of yourself. So that is actually key to making all this work.
Yeah. And not attracting in another person that's the
Yes,
same.
yes, that is number one, because they always tend to go back to their, to what they were attracted to in the beginning, either a father figure,
Yeah.
whatever it is, and they go back to their own, it's like, you're comfortable in your own demise, basically. You always go back to doing the same mistakes, and you know what the definition of insanity is, doing the same thing over and over,
Yep.
and expecting different results. So let's not be insane in that case.
Let's not.
That is all the time that we have for today's podcast. I do appreciate you, Elsie, for taking the time out of your very busy schedule as being a podcaster to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners who enjoy your incredible story. Now, we hope that you have all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 6 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories just like the one that you listened to today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Life is not about expecting, hoping, and wishing. It's about doing, being, and becoming. If you start expecting things to happen, you should expect disappointment to occur. If you work on making things happen, you increase your chances for it to occur. It's all about what you put in, including but not limited to effort, hard work, consistency in action, passion, and patience. Luck can or will not be on your side throughout that journey. But regardless of it to happen, do not put all your eggs in the same luck basket. This will certainly be an ingredient for failure. So go out there, start with your positive thoughts, add some belief and action, and see the things to become great. This is how the laws of attraction works. My name is Dr. Dan Amzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.